Welcome to Inflection Points, a podcast about change in tech, hosted by Allie and Brendan Bonner, and brought to you by the Office of the CTO at Extreme Networks.
We see a world where people have become infinitely distributed around the globe, which means businesses must work at scale and focus increasingly on becoming consumer-centric to connect with every one of them.
Hi, Brendan.
Hey, Allie, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm a bit tired today because I was watching the Super Bowl.
Were you?
You know, even over in Ireland, we get to occasionally watch it, but it is mainly for the entertainment. I don't think we pick a side.
It's still fun. It's fun.
And the halftime show, of course. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. The halftime show. Always entertaining. Yes.
Yeah, but of course, one of the most important part of the Super Bowl is, of course, the statistics.
I mean, that's what everybody
the numbers
is there
behind
for.
it. Who's going to be MVP? The predictions on who should actually win versus who actually does win. They're usually quite accurate as well. So this is getting back into that whole world of, you know, is data the most important thing for being able to sort of like get behind a team, or should it be emotions? Should it be something a little bit more human? And I think that's kind of edging into what we're going to be talking about today. Every year, unless there's some real outlier, it's always going to be whatever happens on the last play is going to be the most important one. Whoever gets the most throws is going to be the MVP. These are all very simple things to predict, but there's a lot more behind the scenes about, okay, who should be in which position where. We've seen playbooks being wrote down on pieces of paper, but they're using more and more going into technology, trying to figure out exactly, okay, what's someone's heart rate at that position at that time in the field. So we're seeing more and more information being used to try and figure out who is going to win and to help those teams achieve that.
It's just wild. And the more iterations, the better the model gets, right? I mean, the smarter we get at predicting what the next play is going to be or who's going to win. So that's what we're talking about today, isn't it? Artificial intelligence? Is that our topic?
We're trying to get, it's one of the big topics today in technology. And one of the real big issues is how is that going to impact every other aspect of our society? We can touch on these sort of very high level ones where, okay, is it going to tell us who's going to win the Super Bowl, or how are we going to generate the headlines for tomorrow? But it impacts us in other parts of our lives. So from health, from life, from everything that we do and every thought that we make. And nowadays it's becoming more and more creative. It's writing speeches for us. It's creating artwork. It's getting more to trying to achieve what we've been trying to describe as general artificial intelligence. So hopefully we'll be able to see, okay, how far along are we in this, and whether or not we should be slightly worried about how it has advanced, especially over the last couple of years. Have we reached another peak and it's going to drop off now? I don't know. I'm really excited to be able to talk to Carolina about this.
Me too. I think this is going to be a great conversation. I'm so excited Carolina's joining us. Carolina is an innovation lead at the Office of the CTO for Extreme Networks. Welcome, Carolina. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, Ali. Hi, Brendan. I was listening here quiet, your introduction, very interesting. So I have been working in the area of artificial intelligence for the last 20 years. So I have seen how artificial intelligence slowly has been making its way to our lives. I'm more than happy in being in this conversation with you.
Good. We're so excited to have you here.
I mean, my first question, Carolina, thanks as well. I work with Carolina, and it was brilliant to have her on the team because she was recently acknowledged with the World Summit A.I. as one of the leading top 50 innovators of last year. So congratulations.
Can you remember the first time you started to think about artificial intelligence, or what really got you interested in it? An example, either from your education, your career, or your life.
Actually, the first time, and at that time wasn't even we were not referring to it, oh, I'm doing artificial intelligence, like I'm doing something. So I actually was working as professor at the university in Venezuela, and we were collaborating with a group of, in the medicine faculty. There is a disease, it's a tropical disease called Chagas. Basically there is a small insect that bites you, and after the insect bites you, you develop a disease that is doesn't have symptoms right away. So you basically get sick, but you don't know you are sick. And the what happened is over the years, maybe in 10 years, in 20 years, you started developing problems with your heart, so cardiac problems. But there's people that actually, after 20 years, develop that, and there's people that actually doesn't develop absolutely anything. So actually, they are healthy the rest of their life. And there's not a clinical study that can tell you what type of the disease you got. The one that actually is lethal, that you might die in 20 years because of that, or the one that you are going to be healthy the rest of your life. So what we were studying was that was a classification problem. We were taking the ECG, the electrocardiogram of patients, and trying to classify them according to what will happen to them in the future. And we actually and we were using machine learning for that. We were using a technical support vector machine. Uh, and that was my first incursion into the world of machine learning, was with a real actual application in the medical setting.
Wow.
And I was fascinated about the capabilities that these techniques have and the impact that they will have in society.
So, Carolina, what's the difference between AI, machine learning, and deep learning? Because I kind of hear all of those used together.
So ML is a particular approach of AI. Machine learning, the difference between machine learning and any other approach is that in the case of machine learning, the human will not program the machine to do something. The human program the machine to learn from the data. So now what you do is you give the data after you create the algorithm that tell the machine how to learn. You give data and the machine extract the different rules, let's say, to put it in a way, from the data, rather from a human telling, oh, do this or do that. Now, deep learning is one approach of machine learning. So you have AI has machine learning, and deep learning is inside machine learning. So the difference of this approach is that in deep learning, we use something called neural networks that are loosely inspired in how the human brain works. The idea is that you have these neurons that are connected to each other. And like in the brain, you have the neurons and you have the synaptics between the neurons. So it's a very similar situation. So what you do in the case of deep learning is you train with this data, because it's still machine learning, you train and you decide which neurons are connected with each other. And this is a very high level picture. And in that way, the machine learns. So you create a mini brain that is able to answer your question, or to see something, or to talk about something.
There's so many examples of artificial intelligence that are, in the news today. ChatGPT is the big one that just came out. Is there something that has happened in the foundational technology that supports AI that is allowing for all of this innovation, or are we just seeing the gradual evolution of AI? We're just getting better and better at this. What's changing?
In terms of things like, for example, ChatGPT, the foundation of ChatGPT is something called a transformer, and that was a breakthrough actually that happened in 2000, at the end of 2017. I think it was October 2017, around that, by a group of researchers at Google who published a paper called "Attention is All You Need," and that actually revolutionized and changed the way we were working with language in the context of AI. And really, the exponentially have grown our capabilities to generate models. This is another important thing. So in the last couple of years, probably 3 years, 4 years, there have been a lot of advancement towards something that's called generative AI. So in the past, We were seeing AI as, oh, let's classify, let's detect, let's say, oh, this is a spam, it's not a spam. But now, the last years, we have grown towards generating things through AI. For example, I'm not going to extract a piece of text like putting sentences that I have read and I put together and generating a new text. Or there are algorithms, for example, there is one called DALI, another one is Stable Diffusion, that are used to generate images. I'm able to say, I want an image of two dogs barking to a cat, and those models are able to generate those images. So this is generative AI.
So is that the current state of the art now at the moment, is the mixture between transformers and then doing generative AI, and you have adversarial networks as well who are telling them whether or not they're right or wrong in their answers. So between all of these, are we on the route to general AI?
So I think that there are multiple things in your question. So the first of all, I don't think that generative AI is a solution to every problem. Generative AI is a type of AI that is used for certain aspects. For example, when I want to generate text or want to generate images. But if I, for example, want to forecast the weather, I might not use generative AI. There's a huge difference between the learning between human beings and AI. For example, when you have a small kid and you go to the zoo with the kid and you show the kid a zebra, he only needs to see one zebra to know, okay, this is a zebra. You don't need to show 5,000 zebras in different positions to understand that. The kid is able to learn with something that in the terms of AI we call one-shot learning. But we haven't arrived to the point where AI can extrapolate. And this brings to a very important not only the difference in the learning, but also the difference in terms of how careful we need to be with the data we use for training versus the data we use actually in production. For example, if I never show the zebra to AI in my training, but in production I show a zebra, AI is going to say this is a horse, probably. So it's going to try to find the closest thing. So the same happened with much more complex situations. For example, if I'm doing, and this has been a big ethical issues, in particular in the United States, if I train an AI model to do something like do a risk assessment on a person that goes to trial. So you have somebody who has been charged for something, and you want to do a risk assessment to decide if this person should go out on parole or not. So now you need to think, what data did I use to train this model? Because if I didn't train the model with something that covers this use case, now AI is not going to be able to give me the right answer. Even more, if I train that model with biased data that came because humans in the past were doing bad assumptions, my AI will learn it in the wrong way.
Is this the same on all AI models then? Does everything have some form of bias? And in reality, we can't trust them. We can't hand over our judgment to a system where we're not 100% sure that it's not only reliable, but they have some sort of a thing that they can tell us 100% that's a zebra.
So I think that there are two aspects to it. First of all, and I'm going to ask a question: can I actually trust that humans has no bias? So is the bias of AI worse than the bias of the human? So that's something that we need also to think, because sometimes we're very hard to judge AI when humans has been also been biased for a lot of years. But anyway, so I definitely think that is the responsibility of the people building the model. And by building the model is not the developer who codes, is also the company behind it, is the ethics committee around the model, who need to analyze what data was it used to train this model. Was this data biased? Is this model fair? For example, let's say that I create, imagine, Brendan, that you told me, Carolina, let's create a model to decide if I should give a credit for a mortgage to somebody or not. Okay, so I take my training data, and I go to a big bank and I say, give me all your data. And I will put this in a model, and I'm going to create a model that is 99.9% accurate. Okay, what means that is 99.9% accurate? Means that this model was able to replicate in 99.9% of the cases whatever that bank was doing. Was that fair? We don't know. Well, we can know. We, as a researcher, we should do things. For example, there are things, there is a technique that I really like that is called counterfactuals. That is, imagine you, Brendan, the model say, no, Brendan should not get the mortgage. Counterfactuals actually is a method that allows you to know the why Brendan is not getting this mortgage. And counterfactual will say, what is good to answer is, okay, for Brendan to get the mortgage, Brendan should increase your salary, change where you live, I don't know, whatever the model says. So you can use counterfactuals, for example, to understand if there is things like, this person should change their gender or should have a different age. So you can understand how the model react to different variables that we consider sensitive in terms of bias. So we can evaluate the fairness of the model on that respect.
Okay, and who actually makes those decisions on who should be the ethical guidelines? Should it be researchers? Should it be the software engineers creating the software? Or should it be government? We need to take a handle on this and we need to enforce specific rules and that we can test it in some way.
The last, I will say the last probably 6 years, there have been a lot of discussions around that. So there has been organisms, non-governmental organisms and governmental organisms that have been put together to answer the question of accountability. Who is accountable if AI does something wrong? And so far, there is not a clear answer on that. So there is no clarity on who is accountable. What is the recommendation, and has been the recommendation for the last at least 4 years? Multiple countries have launched something that is called the Algorithmic Impact Assessment. This is basically a survey where you actually say, okay, you need to answer certain questions about your model. For example, would this model harm a user if he is used in a wrong way? Or what happens if the data has some bias? So you basically do an assessment, and according to the score of that, you understand how risky is to put your model in production. And depends on how risky it is. For example, if I'm doing a model to recommend you shoes, that probably is not very risky. So the worst thing that could happen is that you don't like the shoes I'm recommending to you. But if I'm doing a model to decide if you go to jail or not, or if I'm doing a model to decide medical treatment, so that is going to have a high impact, algorithmic impact. Think with high algorithmic impact, you need to ensure multiple things. One of the things is transparency. Your algorithm need to be available for peer review of other researchers. You need to make sure also that your algorithms can be interpreted so that you can understand the reasons why the AI is making those decisions. You also need to prove that the algorithm is fair. You need to trace and have some lineage and governance on the data that has been used for training. So there are more things now. There is no organism that asks you for that. You need to do it because you want to protect yourself, because you don't want you or your company to be in a situation like that. And I'm lying a little bit because there is one clear case is GDPR. So GDPR in Europe, actually, they have some clauses. In particular, there is one that say, if AI is making a decision for me, I have the right to know A, that AI was making the decision, and B, I have the right to ask for the reasons why AI made that decision. So GDPR actually is very clear that in that. So it's a good step forward in that sense.
What else? What are some of the other ethical considerations when we're thinking about AI? I mean, again, not to go back to ChatGPT, but that's part of that conversation is what does this mean for, students writing
Yeah.
essays, questions of plagiarism, Dolly, same. What do we think
Yes.
about artistic integrity when we can have an artificial intelligence that can create art on demand? I mean, what are some of these
Yes.
conversations? Yeah.
Yes, that's the other side. So imagine AI is perfect and the results are good, or now the problem is that so that text that has been generated, how but this is a, I think that we can see it in multiple ways. First of all, when it is plagiarism, okay, so if AI is generating the text from a lot of other sources, but it's a generative thing, in theory is not, AI is not doing plagiarism. Now, the student that is using AI to generate the answers or the essay that was asked for at the school, yes, the student is cheating. I don't know if it's plagiarism or at least it's cheating because it's letting AI to do that. So there are a couple of things I heard, and I don't know if it's true or not because I read this in the internet, and as you know, not everything you read in the internet is true. That OpenAI was thinking if input some kind of checksum or some kind of watermark to the text generated for ChatGPT, so it can be detected as generated by ChatGPT. I, but even if that's true, if I know that this is true, I change three, four phrases, maybe that already is enough to make a difference. So, and that make us think in what are the implications for our future society. In the same way, when I was a kid, I was using the calculator. Okay. Well, in fact, when I was a kid, the calculator existed, but at the school was forbidden to bring your calculator. So when I was in high school, no, you need to do everything by hand. That evolved over time, and kids were able to bring calculators at the school, and that was okay. And there are certain operations like a square root and logarithm that I learned how to do by hand that newer generations probably are not learning anymore. And that was an evolution of learning.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say.
The calculator becomes part of the curriculum then, and it's
Exactly.
how to use it.
So,
Yep.
so maybe this is a new evolution that we're seeing. Now the problem that I see with with ChatGPT, which I am a fan and I really like it and I use it almost every day. I see there is an is the first powerful AI tool that have reached this amount of popularity, at least in my what I have seen. So and gives you a lot of freedom, but you don't understand the people that is using it doesn't understand well what are the capabilities, where is the limit of ChatGPT. So I see a lot of people trying to put logic problems into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT cannot answer or answer it wrong because that goes beyond what it was trained for. So there is a new risk now, and there is maybe something in the curricula is to understand what are the limits and the capabilities of that particular system.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that every time, no matter if it's ChatGPT or no matter what model you create, you need to, when you give that to the person, to the owner, you as a machine learning expert, the data scientist, create something and give that to somebody, deploy that and put that in your system. These need to come with these are the capabilities, these are the limits, these are the risks. And this is something that with the popularity of ChatGPT, we don't know them. No, nobody has instruct people in, okay, this is what you can do here. Don't do this because you're going to get wrong things here.
Are we in a same position as the moving from log tables to calculators? You could also get things wrong if you don't know how to use a calculator correctly.
Yeah.
So are we in the
Right?
same position? But what things that the large language models do is they take large bodies of information, the whole of the internet. And I think there was an article in the New Yorker over the weekend by Ted Chiang as well, talking about how it takes all of this information, compresses it down, but then when you try and get it to explain something, there's artifacts left behind. So you can never really trust it, but it behaves like a child trying to learn something. They'll get the gist of it, there'll be errors, but it's able to then explain. So should we just let this be the new normal, as in we're the ones falling behind because we want to put ethics and rules on things? Whereas kids nowadays, they'll say, yeah, I know it's not perfect, but it answers the question correctly. And I understand the question and the answer now.
I think it's a great tool. And I don't think we are at the level where this tool can be used blindly by everybody. I think that if you are a person who are a critical person, for example, I love to use ChatGPT. I write a paragraph myself, but I want to write it more elegantly or better. So I tell ChatGPT, "Can you write this
Or in
better?"
the style of
And
Yates.
yes, and I already know, so I have enough knowledge to actually be critical on the answer. I don't think, I think that the tool is still very experimental. It's a great advancement. And I'm beyond impressed with the capabilities that ChatGPT has, but I don't think it is at the level to make it like popular for the use of everybody. There is people that is, oh, I'm going to build a company around ChatGPT, which seems very easy. How I watched a video over the weekend, somebody that say how I create a company in 1 hour instead of a month. The person was writing, can you give me a good idea for this? And ChatGPT was writing something. I said, can you build a business plan? And ChatGPT was giving the business plan. And after even the person say, can you give me the code for a website? And ChatGPT give the code for the website. So this person in an hour had business plan, website, and I don't know how many things. But I'm pretty sure that wasn't. It's great for a YouTube video, but I don't think that will be like the company of
It's
YouTube.
probably more
Right.
successful than the majority of startup websites now.
Maybe.
Maybe. So how, besides, letting artificial intelligence create companies for us, how else will AI impact the future of how we work?
I think that AI is already impacting the future, and it's impacting in everywhere. So there is, I don't know, there are countries like Singapore where all the bus and train, all the traffic system already use AI to optimize schedules. So basically, it looks at the traffic in real time, also look at the volume of people historically, and is able to readjust the schedule of buses and trains in order to have less congestion. Everybody will serve. Everybody use things like Google Map, and you do routes, and those routes are optimized by AI. Or there are so many things. If you drive, you have all these sensors that tells you, okay, if you're going in reverse, look at the back. So I definitely think that AI is already here and is impacting a lot of different aspects from our marketing purchases to day-to-day things. Even things like, for example, cancer treatment, personalized cancer treatment, by understanding not only the images, but also uh, or do sequential genomics, and now doing the right treatment for the right person. All the things are happening right now.
Yeah, beyond
I think
beyond
it's
that
going to be
question
wrong.
that beyond that you did mention something about the train lines, and as soon as you mentioned that, I was there. I hope they're not letting AI drive the trains. So, but it's a good point. It does seem to be lots more applications going on behind the scenes than we actually understand for artificial intelligence and machine learning. And even you mentioned at the start, you've got support vector machines being used in one particular application for being able to determine something long term. So is there more going on behind the scenes rather than the ChatGPT headlines?
Definitely. So AI behind the scenes is everywhere, from the noise cancellation of our headphones, and so I definitely think that. But this is all what we call this weak AI, or the AI that solves one particular problem, and that is going to continue growing, and companies are going to continue using it for our well-being. So most of the things, even there are applications that are 24/7 analyzing satellite images to find wildfires or to find illegal fishing. AI is for environmental causes. Also, AI and people from climate change are working together, because AI also uh, have a lot of CO2 emissions. For example, when you are training those large language models, you need a lot of computing power, a lot of GPUs that generates a lot of heat and consumes a lot of energy, that generates CO2 emissions. But also the AI community is working hard with the climate change organizations to try to reduce those emissions. For example, doing things like, oh, let's only train language models in countries that have for example, hydroelectricity rather than the CO2. So
Mhm.
those kind of things.
Okay, so Carolina, we know AI can do lots and lots of powerful things. We've seen that we have that convergence now between the transformer models and all of the historical machine learning models as well. So everything's coming together and it's becoming more and more powerful. And we've seen Europe has introduced an AI Act, the US have introduced one, China as well. The majority of that is to say, don't be doing things for nefarious purposes. But do we need to go a little bit further?
I don't think it's too powerful for our own handling. What I think is and I'm sure the community of researchers are very aware of that, and want to do responsible AI. I think the problem might reside in an educational problem, in letting people understand what are the limits of the models that you're putting out there and what are the capabilities. Also, is the responsibility of the companies that are deploying those models to ensure that they will be used for the intended reason. I actually don't think it is too powerful. I think the problem might be the humans behind it, that we are not taking it enough seriously. The good news, because I think that those are good news, is that probably 5 years ago, in 2017, 2018, there were multiple cases of algorithms that had huge bias, that were unfair, and that opened the eyes of the community, probably because of the bad reputation of the fines. Maybe is related with the fact that you get punished if those things happen. But more and more people is being careful when it comes to the algorithms that are being trained, with the data that is being used for training those algorithms. And AI is here not to try to do things for us. AI is here to actually interact and collaborate with the humans to make things happen.
I'm from that school of thought, that technology has always been there for good, even though it has some side effects as well. But in the main, society has benefited from technology, and AI is just another tool that we can use. So, I mean, Carolina, are you in the same boat? Can you see that we will be using this tool more and more in the future? I mean, in the next 5 to 10 years, can you see it just being a mainstay that you forget about your calculator? People will have to learn how to do prompts and training and understand machine learning models more.
Yes, I definitely think that AI is powerful, is a tool, and is here to stay with us and to simplify our lives. In the same way, and in fact, the thing about prompts, there is now a lot of this prompt engineering on learning how to ask the questions to, for example, to language models like ChatGPT, in order to get the right answers. So maybe people start like learning how to interact with these tools in a better way. I Technology always carry risks, always, but we need to always put in a balance the benefits versus the risks. One, there are a lot of risks, even least risks from the point of view of the society. Now, who will have access to tools like ChatGPT versus the people who maybe stays behind and doesn't have access to those tools? Because even if ChatGPT for now is free, and not necessarily for now, because I saw already that they are offering a paid version of it, $20 a month, Canadian dollars a month. Uh, but but even the free version, you need to have internet connection, fast internet connection. So it might start creating even more inequality among people. So the people who has access to those tools and can do things faster and better, the people that doesn't. So us as a society need to evolve and understand how is the impact of those tools, and what we're going to do to make sure that we get the best out of it.
So, Carolina, we know about the ethics in the overall AI industry, but in terms of, let's say, corporate social responsibility, is AI bias something that we need to start introducing as part of our policies and governance of how companies use AI and start making decisions based on AI?
I think that for every company, it is important to have an ethical assessment on the AI models that they are deploying. So I definitely think that this is important. Depends on the size of the company, and more than the size of the company, I think even depend more on what type of algorithms you are creating, or what are the main purposes of your AI models. You must have a team or a person responsible for evaluating the final model, evaluating the fairness, the bias, and the potential harm that the model can do. So definitely that's needed.
So, what are some of the misconceptions about AI that are out there right now?
I think, well, the first one is the misconception of AI is the solution for everything. So that's a misconception. A lot of times I don't need AI for a particular problem. Actually, there are other techniques and other things that can be done. So that's, I think, the first one. Everybody think, oh, let's do AI, but sometimes makes no sense. The second one is that with AI, I will get 100% accuracy on things. That's impossible. AI is a statistical model. So AI will always have errors. There is no such a thing as perfect AI. I cannot guarantee 100% accuracy or any other metric you want to use under any circumstance. I cannot see the future as any of us. But I can see the near future. I'm telling you, in the near future, this is not going to happen. I don't know if from 20, 30, 40 years something happened, but we're very far from that concept.
Oh, good. Okay, so Terminator is not going to be here tomorrow. Very good to know.
I'm going to
Yeah.
have to follow up on this. Do you think AI today in 2023 is more advanced than the AI in the original Star Trek?
Eh, I think so. I actually think so. Because we have things that I haven't seen in any of the Star Trek movies. They have other technologies that are much more advanced that doesn't require AI. But for the things I have seen in it, well, except data. No,
He's
now
not
I
in the
don't know.
original
Because
series
data,
then. Yeah.
yes, no, maybe not. I don't know. In something, so I think that the our growth in AI has diverged a little bit from the one in Star Trek. So in certain aspects we're more advanced, but in certain aspects no. But we're going to go there.
We're getting there. I just want my door to say whoosh.
This is fascinating. I feel like we could talk about this all day. I loved hearing about, our responsibilities as a society in using AI. And I agree. I think that's, we can look at the benefits and how they weigh against the risks. And AI is here and it's going to continue to be here and continue to grow and influence.
Thank you, Carolina. Again, there's more reasons to be cheerful than reasons to be fearful. I think you've shown that there's more applications that we're not really worried about. They're helping us, and this is always going to be a benefit for society. So it's a really good perspective, and it's good that it's coming from the people that are building these systems as well.
Thank you very much, Allie, Brendan. I really had a great time talking to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. So, Brendan, what do you think?
I'm happy. I'm not as fearful. I was really worried that when you have an understanding of the industry, you may be able to see the threats and the not so much the bad parts of it, but the things that people are generally fearful of. So when we're talking about artificial intelligence, we do have this Terminator view where we've got robots making decisions on our behalf, and we can see we're gradually getting to that stage when we're able to ask a question and it's able to give us an answer in a relatively human way. We've definitely gone way past that Turing test. But we're at the stage now where we're actually working very closely. We've got this symbiotic relationship with technology that's not really a threat, but more of an assistance. And especially in parts of our lives that are just normal. So pharma and in agriculture, in medicine, in healthcare, in manufacturing, it's helping us. What do you think?
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's a tool that we're going to have to learn, and we already are learning how to work with in a responsible way, and to really help us make smarter decisions, make more efficient decisions. It was great to hear about how we're already thinking about, how to make sure our data is good, that we're not introducing bias into these models, or just aware of that, right? How there are regulations about, the implications in data privacy and knowing when AI was used to make a decision about you and knowing what that decision was and why. So it's reassuring. Well, this was fun. Thanks.
Thanks again, Ali. That was a great talk. Join us on the next episode of Inflection Points for a lively conversation with Dr. Peter Marshall from Ericsson. Peter discusses how 6G technology will drive innovation and what it will look like in the future of the infinite enterprise. If you'd like to learn more about the Office of CTO at Extreme Networks, check out our thought leadership content at extremenetworks.com/blog and look for our gold Office of CTO logo.
We hope you continue to enjoy Inflection Points. Every month, new episodes will be released on Wednesdays. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and you can select between video and audio only streams based on your preferences.